just a bit.
Hi, I think we're good. Hi everyone, and welcome to this live stream. Before I even jump into it though, if you could let me know if you can hear and see everything all right. It's been a few months since I've done this, so I want to make sure all the settings that Josh and I just put into effect actually work. Because I feel like every time I stream, there's always some kind of a technological difficulty. So I'm hoping that we minimize that today, but we'll see. There we go. Okay, but if everything is working well, I'll just say, let's start it off. Hi everyone, I'm Timothy Von Rueden, better known as Vonnart Online, and I used to do these streams weekly, and we kind of stopped midway through the year because conventions came back, and my schedule got really mixed up, and we decided to put streaming on the back burner while we kind of readjust and reintegrate conventions back into our lifestyle, which I'll talk about that more when I'm actually drawing. But I will say, Josh and I have talked a little bit, and we're thinking we're going to bring these back starting in January. So if you want to hear more of these weekly live streams where I'm drawing and we're chatting, and Josh will be our mod, then look for the first one, January 5th is what we're planning for. And we're going to try to make a whole thing downstairs. Oh, hello, Schwa. Thank you for becoming a member. Josh is my lovely boyfriend, and he will be modding pretty much most of these streams. If he's not here live with me in the actual office, he'll be at least online in the chat. So thank you, Josh, for becoming a member. Actually, I forgot. Now we got new emojis for all of our YouTube members. So here's a kind of sneak peek at them in the chat. And we're hoping to get a few more. I have our wonderful Ella making them. She is a viewer and a Discord mod that you can join below. But anyways, okay. So yes, if you are looking for more of these, we'll be starting again in January. And we're going to try to do these weekly again. But I kind of want to give a little catch up. So the first thing is, yes, we do have the new members. We have the new emojis. And then for Patreon, I did add a new Discord, so if you become my Patreon backer, you'll get to see all my, where did I put them? All of my tarot drawings from start to finish. And I'm trying to hit about one a month. That's kind of the goal I'm hitting. And I just started on the Queen of Cups, as you can see her. And if you are my Patreon backer, I'll be posting kind of screenshots and work in progress shots along the way. So that's kind of new. Let's see here. Oh, yes. And the thing that I want to start streaming in January is I made a card deck in, let's see, it was May of last year I finished it. And for the new one, I'm going to be making a new one with mermaids. So this one was kind of my Royals deck is what I called it. And it's these figures on each of the face cards, as you can see. And each of them represented something different depending on the suit. But I'm going to be doing something a little different with my next one, as they're going to be all mermaids, and I'm going to kind of base it on the different oceans. And I have a few things that I can kind of share, because I kind of just started, so like very, very new development here. So a lot of the ideas that I have with the mermaid deck, and I kind of want to collaborate with you guys on the streams, is in January, we're going to look at the heart suit. And then February, clubs, March, diamonds, and April, the spades. And then in May, during Mermay, I'm going to launch it on either Kickstarter or Indiegogo. And that is kind of the plan I have. So every week on the streams, you'll get to see kind of the progress of a new character, kind of what their stories are within their suit. And part of what I have so far is a lot of like, I want the actual scales on the mermaids to be representative of the actual pips. And you can kind of see it. I'm trying to make it so it's not super obvious. Like I like subtlety with these kind of things where it feels more clever rather than redundant. So hopefully I can integrate that well. But I do want like the bottom of their fin to be very much in the shape of whatever suit it is. But I want to do it where it's like a hint of it, where it's not so obvious. So I try to make the club one. You can kind of see the club if you really look at it. And same with the spade. But at first glance, you might not know it's there. So that is what I will be working on for the mermaid deck. I'm very excited about this. And if you want to come see the progress of that daily or weekly, not daily, Oh gosh, I can't be a daily streamer, that'd be too much. But I'll be doing that starting January 5th. And then what is the other big thing I wanted to share before we get started? Oh yes, okay. So while I was away, oh, and if any of you have comments or questions, please put at vonnart or at schwa. Oh, thank you, Honey Guts, for becoming a member. I forgot I don't have my bell here. I usually have a bell when someone subscribes. So thank you so much. You are now able to use the emojis. But while I was away at all these conventions, Josh came to, I believe Josh was at 3. I think 3 out of the 6 conventions we did. And there's a bunch of them that I found really cool art books. So I'm going to try to spit through this as quickly as possible for you guys. Let me put this to the side here. Okay. So if any of you are interested in art books, it's kind of my favorite thing ever to find at cons. For me, it's like digging for treasure, and every now and then you find a real gem. So I'm going to zoom up a little bit here. So the first one is The Art of Ukumo Uiti. And this one, it was wrapped, so I couldn't tell if it was good or not. I had a kind of blind guess if it would be good. But I liked the cover work on it, and I loved this like vague back cover. And with these kind of books, I'm sure you guys have seen these before, they're either going to be really great or like a bomb. Thankfully, this one I thought was really great. The first half is pretty much standard, kind of more animated looking illustrations. There's some like cute ones for sure. But it's really the back half that captivated me. And there's a specific section where it's like he's starting to market broomsticks, which I thought was really cool. Here, let me show you some of the... Yeah, so you have like these fake advertisements for broomsticks in this weird wizarding world. And I loved it. He had like the basic model. And I thought it was just a really clever, fun thing to do. And this artist was one I've never heard of before. So finding this book, it's one of those like... awesome. That's why I love doing cons so much, is finding books like these, and they make me just so excited, and they like revitalize, they re-inject me with inspiration almost instantly. So this was a really fun find. And then the next one, and then this one was at Emerald City. The next one was this artist, Melissa Pegluiska. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But they made this graphic novel called Above the Clouds. And why I think this was impressive is because it was a thick book. This is not like a thin little book. And what's kind of great about this one is in the beginning chapters, you can kind of see their art style. It's still a little rough, to be honest, a little crunchy. But then as you move forward, they really do find their art style, and it shines. I think it kind of becomes this beautiful story of integrating real life and a story. And those are kind of my favorite type of stories. Like think Moulin Rouge or The Fall, where there's like a story within the story, but the two are integrated and one affects the other and vice versa. So that was really fun to look through and read. So I read this, definitely would want to check it out. They're already working on a new book, and I'm excited for that one because they have already found their art style, so now they can like really start soaring. But this was a great first book out the gate. Okay, now we're getting into some of my favorites here. So this one is called Michi. And this one, I immediately thought of, what's that game on the iPad? The Monument Valley? That's it. And it has this isometric view, and I really liked it. But what was interesting to me is when you open it, there's this doorknob, and it starts with the boy and his cat. And then through every page, he walks, and then the page, wherever it ends on this side, it'll begin on this side, which was really fun. So you see this boy and the cat, it's almost like a Where's Waldo, traverse through all these really cool, fun, interesting concepts. And eventually, as I was looking through this, it gets to this halfway point right here. And what was really strange is not only is it symmetrical, but then there's this girl and a dog facing the boy. And what was really interesting, as you continue the book, all of a sudden it's the girl and the dog, no longer the boy and the cat. But what was interesting is the girl is facing toward the middle part. And as you keep going, you realize it's the girl and her dog. It's no longer the boy and the cat at all anymore. And it's kind of one of those books where the more you look at it, the more you kind of put the pieces together of what puzzle the artist was trying to create. And when you get to the end, let me show you. you see a girl and a dog leaving her house, similar to the boy and the cat, but the boy and the cat, it was called Michi, and the girl and the dog, it's also Michi, but it's written in hiragana, or katakana? Hiragana? Oh my gosh, it's been so long since I learned Japanese, but I thought it was interesting because Western viewers would read a book left to right, where Eastern readers, like in Japanese, would read it right to left. So I figured out that if you picked it up and you read it like you would normally read a Japanese book, it would be Michi with the girl and the dog. But if you read it like an American, like I did, I read it left to right, Michi with the boy and the cat. And it was really cool because the story kind of unfolded itself that they're the same stories, but it's these two worlds colliding. And then in the center, that's why it's so powerful of them meeting. And this book, I really, really loved. I didn't think I was going to find a book that I liked more than this, but I did, which was crazy because I thought this one was so cool once I kind of put the pieces together. And like I said, I tend to ramble, so feel free to interrupt at any point. Hey, Tijal, how are you doing? Man, it's been so long. I know. Yeah, didn't realize the member thing became a thing on YouTube. Yes, so it's a $2 membership. It's basically that you get all the emojis, and it's like a small way to support me and Josh doing more of these streams. And I think we talked about it. I think we want to do more at home stuff rather than going to as many cons. And I think doing more YouTube and more live streams will be part of that. So that's kind of what we're thinking right now. Okay, so this is the book that I would highly recommend to anyone. It's called Houses with a Story. Now, initially, I actually bought it. I think this was a wrapped one as well, but I bought it because of this little Final Fantasy looking character, Red Mage almost, like going through a house. I thought this was showing different times of the day, and you see him doing like different things. But you come to find out it's actually something different. But I highly recommend this book because it does a lot of this where you get to see like inside of a room. But what's crazy is the amount of detail and thought that went into this book is insane. It actually made me tear up. I was like reading the book behind a booth at Emerald City and I started like crying. Not like a full-on cry, but definitely a single tear definitely came out because I love seeing when an artist really puts in extra thought and time and effort into the planning stages of a book and then executing it so well. It just makes me just smile. It really is so cool. So anyways, every different building is a different page. And what's cool is every page on the left side shows an illustration, what it looks like on the outside. And on the right, it kind of shows a cutaway look on the inside. Kind of think like The Sims back in the day when like some of the walls would be still shown, but you could kind of see within it. But what I didn't realize is every architecture building had a character story to go with it. And it took me to like the fifth or sixth one to kind of pick up that the entire book is laid out this way. So like this one, Pessimistic Astronomer's Residence. I thought that was so cool, and like seeing him on the top of this mountain. There's so much story within pages where I can't even read the actual words, but just from that statement alone, I probably could have even got the story without the statement, but I like the bold title of each one because then you get an idea of who this person is, why they live here, why there's certain things set up in the home that they do. And this book I thought was just phenomenal. Like this one, the Mechanics Cottage, and just seeing him with the dog and then how it would be laid out with the boat. And you can kind of put the pieces together of like, oh, this house is actually turned this way in the illustration. And then the one that made me get like choked up, it was the Forgotten Orphans Castle. This one, it was Cider in the Watermill. And I love the fact that it had this grandpa and his granddaughter that just make apple cider essentially in this watermill. And I just thought it was such a clever way to integrate these stories into what would normally seen as more mundane with architecture. And I know a lot of people don't appreciate like buildings or structures. And admittedly, I don't draw a lot of it either because I think sometimes it comes across so cold and impersonal. But this book totally changed the way that I saw it. And I think that's why it got to me, because I realized there's so much story that you can tell with just an interior of a building. So this is a book I highly recommend. And even in the back, they show all the line arts, and I believe they show the initial sketches, unless if I'm imagining that. There we go. So you get to see also how they made each one, which was a nice little insight. So, like I said, I can ramble for a while about these books. This one was my absolute favorite. I give it a 10 out of 10. Definitely recommend. And now the ones, I'm not going to show all the books because I literally got like 15 to 18 of them the last couple months. So I'll show the ones that were my favorites, and then some that came in the mail that I really like. If you aren't already following Devin L. Kurtz, she is an artist that I've become friends with, and we do these monthly checkups, and she's just killing it. I think she's someone that understands the art world so well right now, and she's still young, but she knows how to dominate social media. I joke that she's like the queen of social media right now, because she went from like 100,000 followers to 500,000 followers in like a year. It was nuts to see her progress and just like catapult, you know. So this book was really fun because she does a lot of tutorial stuff, talks about how she does her process, how she works with color and stuff. And honestly, I think just Devin is such a great person that I would definitely check this out if this is kind of a style that you're interested in. Another one that I got was, I don't know if you guys remember growing up, the Goosebump books. I was definitely one of those millennial kids that their parents read them Goosebumps when they were little. And his name's Tim Jacobus, but on the cover of Goosebumps, it would say T. Jacobus. And I found out that they actually made an entire book of his cover work. And why this was so great for me is because every cover that you see, they show the initial sketches, they talk about the process of each one, and they literally go through every single book and every single cover. So for me, this was like gold because I grew up with Goosebumps, and admittedly, I think this is what influenced me into that direction so hard. So if stuff like this is interesting to you, more macabre, definitely has more of a 90s feel to it, especially with the coloring. There's a lot of airbrushing techniques, and I actually didn't know that before I read this book on how he did his process. So it's all painted with acrylic and an airbrush. And now that I look at it, yeah, to me now it's very obvious, but at the time I thought it was like magic, you know. So this is definitely a book I would recommend, especially if you grew up with Goosebumps at all. And then the last two were ones that I got. They're two of my favorite artists of all time, and one of them is more obvious than the other, but Yoshitaka Amano, I have, I think, like 5 of his books, but I don't have this one, and this is his Tale of Genji and Fairies. And why this one's pretty fun is because it's work that's not related to Final Fantasy or Castlevania, and it's more of these illustrations that aren't as popular, I would say. Oops, I keep going off screen, sorry guys. And these I find so inspiring though, because as I get older, the more and more I appreciate his work. And as a kid, I always thought Tetsuya Nomura was the better artist working on Final Fantasy and at Squaresoft. But as I get older, I realize that Amano is a master. And I know a lot of people might look at his work and think it's kind of rushed looking or not as tight or as finished, but the level of creativity in his use of color and placement and the confidence in the way that he does it is so strong that it really doesn't matter if it's not as crispy as some other artists' work, because it's so imaginative and it creates a style that is its own universe. It's like this fantastical world that you can just peek into for a little while and get lost in. And the older I get, the more I realize that the more unique your art style is, in a lot of ways, the better of an artist you are, because you're really tapping into what makes you happy as a creator, and you're not letting outside influences or what's popular kind of navigate you down that other path. And especially I love like over decadent stuff, if you can't tell from my own work. And this book just has, where's the fold out? Oh yeah, here it is. This one is just awesome. eventually I'd love to do kind of a fold-out drawing like this. And I think why this book gave me so much life as well, and this was another one I got at a con, and I was just flipping through it being like, oh, that's right, like this is what art should be, is because it inspires me to get back into drawing again and doing it for the right reasons. And that's something I'll probably talk about more on streams in 2022, where I think a lot of the times in modern day art world, we do a lot of what we do for the premise of the end goal being financial stability or financial gain, or even if it's not related to money, sometimes it's just related to social gain, like with Instagram or TikTok or whatever social media. And I think sometimes we lose track of what kind of art we want to do, because then we end up doing art that we feel we're supposed to do. But anyways, I got one more book to show, and then I promise I'll get into the drawing. So yes, of course, I found a new Muka book. And the reason why I like this one, obviously it's bigger, so you can see the images more clearly, but there were a lot of images that I haven't seen in the other books I have from him. And they kind of give closer up shots to some of the elements that he adds. And I always knew he did a lot of advertising stuff, but I guess I didn't realize to the scale that he did so much advertising creations. And I like that the book goes through like his history a little bit. And normally when it comes to art books, I like the least amount of words, to be honest. But this is one of those books I actually didn't mind it. And I was having fun flipping through and reading about the different elements and what they were used for. And like even this, like just seeing the different shapes that he gravitated towards, which is really fascinating. And it made sense then when you see it in his illustrations, those type of shapes. So yeah, this was the last one that I got that I would recommend. Now in the future, I'll probably show like one or two books that I got, not like a whole book review to start the stream. But I did want to start that off before I get into this. Okay, so let's see here. Wait, there's more. Definitely, yeah, there's always more art books when it comes to me. Hello everyone. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, we're good. Hey, hello. Is that, yeah, Fem, how are you doing? Hello. Okay, I think we're good. So, let me move this back down. So today's gonna be a pretty simple drawing. It's gonna be one that I'm gonna post on Christmas. I did a little sketch of it. It's actually originally Josh's idea, but I draw these little dirt kid characters and they grow sprouts out of the top of their head depending on what plant or what flora they're gonna be. And their body's basically like dirt that's mushed up together. And Josh thought it would be cute if I did dirt kids with mistletoe growing out of one of their heads. So this is kind of the thumbnail I drew as like the primary sketch. And I'm gonna try to recreate this for the stream today. So nothing too complicated. So if you came here for like a gaudy, fantastical thing, I'm sorry, but it's sorely mistaken for two little plumpy, chibi dirt kid things today. And I just wanted to catch up with you guys as it's my last stream of the year. And let me make sure I didn't have any other things I wanted to show off before I started. No, I think we're good. And as I always say, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to ask. That is why we are going to be doing these. I want to have more of the connection with the community again, because the last 6 months has been isolating and going to cons has been borderline stressful. And I think I want to do more of these at home, getting to know everyone better rather than having to physically be somewhere. Where's my eraser? There it is. Okay. And the tools I'll be working with, I'm going to be using my Kimberly General pencils, and I'm working with a 6H and an HB pencil. I'll be working with my Mono Zero eraser and my Kneaded Eraser. And then if I get into heavy detail-oriented kind of edging, I'll be working with my Orenz 0.2 mechanical pencil. All right, let's get it going. Let's see here. Sean says, hello from the guy from Emerald City who couldn't figure out what he wanted to buy for me for ages. Well, hello, Sean. How are you doing? Emerald was so much fun. Honestly, I was telling Josh, the main reason I want to do that one every year, even though it's kind of farther away, is because I find the best art books at Emerald City. I don't know why it's always Emerald, but they just seem to have the best ones. And literally half of the ones that I showed today were from Emerald City. Kansas is a good show. I like Seattle. It's a fun city to visit. Let's see here. Honey, I was curious about how you felt about people doing studies of your art. Sometimes it's a little weird. Like, I'll go to Instagram and someone will do a study of my work, but then not tag me. And then they'll do like a few of them. And I notice that they're getting all these comments about like, oh, that's great. Like, that's so creative or whatever the comment is. And they just kind of like take it for themselves, even though it's like a clear copy paste of my own drawing. I think as long as it's credited, I don't mind it at all. But I think the last year it's been a lot of uncredited, and I don't know exactly how I feel about that. I'm glad that I can be inspiring to people, but I remember when I would do studies of people's works, I would always credit the original artist, and I would never try to pretend like it was my own when someone commented on it. But yeah, I mean, I think all artists do that starting off. So who would I be to say like I don't agree with it, you know? Because we all do it. We all do it at some point. I'm gonna move this over. There we go. So the drawing will be kind of light at first, just because I'm working with a 6H pencil. So this is a really light pencil. I want the dirt kid on the left to be like fully involved with the idea of kissing the other dirt kid. Me leaning in a little bit. And it's funny doing this drawing today too, because something that I realized this past week, and I know poor Josh has had to deal with me not really feeling very connected to the art world the past 2 months. And I think I lost a little bit of what's important in the work that I want to create, and that's the story that the illustration tells. And I think I got too wrapped up in my Instagram not doing well, and it started happening around in Drawtober time, which is October. And I host this drawing challenge along with a few other artists and Josh. And my drawings, I felt like I was putting a lot of work into actually, I was building things this year. So I built like a fortune teller booth that was all hand drawn. And they just didn't do as well as I was hoping they would do. And I was actually starting to lose followers. And when you put a lot of your heart and soul into a piece, and it actually negatively affects your social status, and not status, I don't think I should say that, but like your numbers for sure. It can take a heavy toll, especially if it's something that you were like you put a lot of time and effort in. And I get that that's the whole point of like being vulnerable, and you can't always expect everything you post to be just super loved by everyone, and that's just an unrealistic expectation. And I think it creates a standard that is impossible to live up to, because then you're basically creating based on the reaction that you're going to get from most of the time strangers. And I was letting that affect me hard. If I'm being honest with you guys, it was affecting me hard. So it wasn't until I'm gonna refocus this too, so it doesn't keep doing that. And it wasn't until literally like earlier this week, late last week, that as I was working on this drawing, I started to realize like this to me is a jumbled mess, and I've never hated a drawing more than this one this whole year. I think because it's so void of emotion or like a story. And the more I was like thinking about what I like in art and what I wasn't doing within my own, was all my pieces, or at least not all of them, but definitely ones like this, just felt like I was clocking in for the day. And I was just taking my rendering skills and abilities and just putting it in this like crazy scheme like this, where it's like the more is better mentality. But sometimes simplicity in the story that it's telling is really what matters in art. And I think I was honestly missing that. I really was missing the mark completely. And even with something as simple and dumb as these two little dirt kids, it has more of a story than a lot of the work that I was creating. You know, this is too tall though. And it was, what was I doing that I realized it? Oh, I read that book I showed earlier. I don't want to get the name wrong. Above the Clouds. And as I was going through it, I was like, man, I had a story called Swordplay that I wanted to create ever since I was like a little kid. And I really had these deep thoughts of, I feel like I'm letting my childhood self down because as an adult, yeah, I might be making a living doing what I love, but I'm not creating the story that I really wanted to do and creating stories that meant a lot to me when I was younger. So after I finish up on a few of these projects that I kind of have wrapped up, or I got wrapped up in, from the tarot and the mermaid card deck and the 5-foot underwater drawing. Yeah, I feel like there's a few more. I have too many side projects right now. I'm gonna then kind of dive into my story and like give it a real actual shot this time, because I feel like I've always had it on the back burner and I would always dabble with it, and it was never my primary focus because I was so worried about being financially stable, which is a valid concern. But now that I'm getting older, now that my money situation has gotten better, I want to definitely go back and revisit why I loved making art as a kid in the first place. So anyways, ramble. Fem says, doing all right. A lot happened. Got a new job and we finally got our 2 kitties home. Well, that's great to hear. Oh yeah, what are their names? Oyaskar says, are you going to do more tutorial like theme-based streams videos? I've learned a lot from what you already have on your channel, but I love doing it live. Yes, I definitely want to do another one of those life drawing ones, because I know for me personally, I think that's where I learned the most how to draw anatomy. And the last 2 years I haven't been able to go to a life drawing stream, obviously with the lockdown, and I would like to get back into it, and for sure would love to do another like follow along stream. I also want to do, I know a lot of people have been asking me how to work with powdered graphite. I did this drawing, I think it was a month ago, and it was pretty much primarily powdered graphite, and I had so many DMs asking how to use it. So I think I would like to do definitely a follow along on how to use powdered graphite at some point. So if that interests you, I definitely see that happening. And we'll do like a simple subject matter, like a pearl on a black background or something, where it's very much just focused on getting comfortable with the material. There we go. So this is gonna be a little mistletoe plant. And then we gotta have a little dirt kid. So I think I want the one on the right to either look really scared of like he's never kissed another dirt kid before. Because for some reason I imagine the one on the left being this like girly dirt kid, and then the one on the left being like this very shy boy dirt kid. But I think I'm gonna go more for like nervous. It's like he's definitely not rejecting the kiss, but he has no idea how he's supposed to react, what he's supposed to do. And she's kind of brought this upon him. So that's kind of the story I'm hoping to tell with my 2 little dirt kids today. And I want his hands to kind of do like that nervous poking each other. A good little blush. Now, a lot of this is an underdrawing. So for those of you who have come to my streams before know that we still got a long ways before this would be considered done, because I work with a few different graphite pencils to create a darker, oh my god, my candles went out. Like there was smoke coming toward me. You probably can't even see it on the stream. I was like, is something on fire in here? But I work really light for a few reasons to start off, because I don't like smudging graphite. And if you work with an HB or any type of B pencil, for sure B pencils will smudge. And sometimes that can be just time wasting because you're constantly erasing all the excess. So instead, I work lighter and then I kind of build up the foundation to build up from. I'm just gonna give him a little sprout. So this would be essentially the primary stage. And since I want to work a little faster today, I'll probably switch to my HB pencils sooner than I normally would, but I'm going to do one more pass over and kind of darken some areas I know I for sure I'm going to make darker. And then I'll switch over. So let me see what other questions we got here. And then make sure if you do ask me a question, just put @vonnart, so that way when I look up, I can see the orange highlight, and then I can go back down. But for honey guts, how do you keep from killing your wrist from doing your super detailed pieces? Also, sorry if I'm on and off. My dog just had her puppies last night. Oh, well, congrats. I mean, that sounds borderline stressful, but in terms of keeping my wrist, I'm a very light artist in terms of how hard I push on the paper. So I actually don't get a lot of wrist cramps like a lot of artists tend to, especially if you're working digitally. I find a lot of artists push too hard on the Cintiq or the tablet, and that's where they put a lot of like stress on this part of the wrist. I do have a video, actually Josh, if you could link it, on 3 different wrist and forearm exercises that you can do. And I do them whenever I'm just not even really thinking, or if I'm doing something else or watching TV or whatever it is I'm doing. Sometimes you'll just see me do quick stretches of my wrist because I don't want to be one of those artists that have carpal tunnel when they're too young and then it affects, you know, their whole drawing career from that point forward, because that is a legitimate fear I have. So I try to take care of my wrists as best I can. So mistletoe, I think a lot of people think mistletoe are like the red berries with the spiky leaves, but that's holly. And the mistletoe, the berries are actually white. This could just be my own misconception growing up thinking they look like that, and I'm just projecting it on thinking everyone thought that. But I actually didn't know for a long time that mistletoe was lighter in color. At least the berries. The leaves are still pretty normal. But isn't it true that the mistletoe is poisonous? Did I just make that up? Is that something that I heard, or is that actual fact? I believe it is. And I love playing with contrast in value, so even something as simple as a little sprout leaf, I'm going to make one side lighter, the other side darker, and it just pushes just a little bit of the contrast. Because their actual heads are pretty dark, because I want them to kind of represent dirt, hence the name Dirt Kids, but then they fade down the body, so the arms are still pretty dark, but then the body is mostly white, besides like this transition. Are they too far apart? Should I make them closer? Is that too far apart? Should I make this one like here? Oh, that's right. I wanted to try out, let me try out this new pull feature. How close should they be? Where they are, closer. So this is a new feature for me. I don't know if it's just been here for a while and I had no idea that YouTube built in a poll feature, but let me know. Oh my gosh, so I typed it in. I have no idea where that went though. Oh, there they are. Oh. How does this even work? Sorry, I'm so new to some of these features. So I just put out the poll. Are you guys able to see that? Is that just me? Are you guys able to see that? Let's see here. Swat says, the mistletoe dirt kid reminds me of Lucy from Charlie Brown. Yes, always looking for a kiss from, what's his name, Schroeder? I think that's it. Jim. Hey, Jim, how are you doing? Hi, Tim. I think the whole pandemic thing has really limited some of the inspiration we can normally get. how amid isolation and lockdowns can we get those pathways to inspiration back? That is a great question. A lot of what I was searching for, you know what, it's weird because 2020 I actually was pretty good with inspiration, and I think it forced this scenario where I was given all this time and energy that I normally would have spent at conventions, and I was able to transform that into some of these projects that I wanted to do for a long time, like the card deck. And this year, I think is where it really hit me that I wasn't finding inspiration as easily. And I'm going to talk about this in depth because a lot of that I think has to do with the fact that I needed a schedule. And I don't know if that's just me or if that's something that a lot of you have as well. But me just kind of winging it every day, which I thought was more like free and hippie and like, oh, draw when you feel inspired or motivated. I'm going to talk about how for me, that actually did not do well. And actually, as you guys are still voting, it looks like right now where they are is actually winning. Is if they're closer, does that make it feel too much like a kiss? Is there more of a story if there's distance between them? Is that what we're feeling? But I learned because I've been kind of grouchy. Not grouchy. I haven't been grouchy. I feel like I've been kind of down on myself, and I've been feeling very lackluster about my connection with art. And I didn't know why. I knew that it was affecting me, that not doing as well on Instagram was kind of getting under my skin. And I was doing my best not to let it because I'm 32 at this point. I feel like I should have it pretty, set in stone that like if a piece doesn't do well, that's okay. I feel strong with who I am, what I've done. I think it was like this consistent 3 months of not doing well on Instagram. And then my account actually is, what's it called? It's not banned. It's not flagged. There's a name for it. But since May, I haven't been able to promote or basically be seen as much on Instagram because Josh has a different reason for why he thinks it is. But I drew the Hanged Man tarot card in May, and the account got flagged for promoting suicide, which is kind of outrageous considering the Hanged Man actually is a good card and it's like seeing something from a new perspective. That's the real meaning behind it. But we haven't been able to get it unflagged or whatever the word is since May. And I think that's been just wearing on me slowly throughout the months. And then with my Drawtober pieces not doing as well, and then the pieces shortly thereafter were also not doing well. It was just like hit after hit after hit. And it's been a while since I felt that. And it got to me more than I thought it would, to be honest. And I also didn't have a schedule. The only schedule I had was me and Josh would work in the basement from 10 to 2 doing like orders, fulfilling, packing things, shipping things. And we do that every day because online really picked up this past year, and we just have to do stuff like that or else it would get too overwhelming just on orders and stuff. So to me, that was my schedule, but my schedule didn't really include hard timed scheduled drawing. And that really affected the way that I worked at night because a lot of the times I thought you had to get inspired or motivated first and then get into drawing. And something that recently I've kind of changed my opinion on is to draw even when you don't have anything in mind that you want to work on. And yesterday, so after like literally months of just feeling kind of down, I realized my relationship with art was damaged, and I felt like my association with drawing was more negative because of how I have been affected by it through the Instagram not doing well and my pieces just not being well received. So my relationship was so bad with art that for me to engage with it again, there was like very little desire. So I decided I need to change that relationship because I don't want my view of it to be a negatively associated one. So starting yesterday, so literally this is kind of a brand new thing. I did what I used to do, and I set hours for myself. So I have a little timer, as you see. So I just set an hour, and then I work on one of my projects for 1 hour. And then eventually when this goes off, as you see, my time thinking about that project ends, and then I give myself like a 20-minute break, and then I do another hour on a different project. And what happened yesterday was like magical, because about 15 minutes into the first project drawing, what was it? Oh, it was the mermaid card deck. I like got lost in it, and then time started to move really fast, and I was enjoying what I was doing again. And I haven't felt that in a while. So then when I went into the next drawing, which was my 5-foot Aquatica drawing that I haven't touched since May, I really enjoyed creating these little stories between the mermaids and their relationships to one another. And I had like this father and son looking into this library type building. And I remember how much joy creating these little micro stories within drawings give me. And I realized a lot of my drawings were just very void lately. Like, even though this might be technically a clean drawing on some levels, the meaning behind it is just mindless. There's nothing really to it. And I'm not even trying to bad talk my art to try to fish for compliments, but it was something I hard realized I needed to reintegrate back into my drawings. And then by the time I got to the Queen of Cups, I set my hour, and I was able to do all of this within an hour and get it kind of edged out and ready for the next pass. And I was just zooming. And then when that ended, it was like 5 o'clock, and I literally had the rest of the night to do whatever else I wanted. And I felt good about myself as an artist again, which admittedly, I just don't feel like I have felt great about myself as an artist. And I think that's what hurt me the most, is I felt like I was letting not only myself down, but I was letting my younger self down. And I say that a lot lately because I had a lot of dreams and ambitions as a kid that I wanted to see, go to fruition as I got older. And now that I'm older, I feel like it's been easier to take the easier paths in terms of not being lazy necessarily, but pushing other projects as a priority, or things in my life as a priority, over these stories that I want to tell. And that was a big problem. So I think that's why I even wanted to stream again, because I feel like a lot of the ideas and inspiration I got from doing these and talking with you guys, I was missing. And I need that connection again. So going back to your question, Jim, how do you get inspiration? One, I think looking inward for sure. And then two, having people that you can talk about your ideas with. I think if you just hold it all in, sometimes there's not a dialogue that brings them out for you to get excited about them again. Because even though I'm really excited about my swordplay book, I rarely talk about it. But when I was at Emerald City, after I read that book, I wrote an entire chapter that night. I was up till like 2 a.m. just writing. And I haven't done that in so long. So, sorry. Long answer to a short question. Like I said, I definitely ramble when I haven't talked to you guys for a while. Oh, Alex is here. Alex, hello. Alex Tostias, if you guys don't follow him, he's actually become one of my closest friends. And I don't want to say is new to the art scene, because you're not, but you're newer to conventions. And he's been just really killing it. And I'm just really glad that I was able to meet him at a workshop, because I think him and I have a very similar views about art and being hardworking, and I think that being a valuable asset as an artist. So, well, hello, Alex. Oh yeah, it seems like where they are is going to win this poll. So I'm going to end it, and then I'm going to start shading that one then. But thank you guys. Now that I know that poll actually works, I'm going to use that way more often on these streams. Let's see, what was the next question here? Honeygut said, oops, no, I do not want to create another poll, YouTube. Thank you, though, for asking. Honeygut said, yeah, it was nuts. She had 9, and I get that I've always had an issue with pushing super hard, as well as having EDS, so it's super easy to wear out. You might have to inform me. I actually am not aware what EDS is, or even if I'm pronouncing that right. You're going to have to let me know. But I guess like the whole topic of pushing super hard is something I could do a whole stream just on how to balance, because I just watched this video. I'm gonna post it again in the Discord. If you want to join it below, there's a Discord where I share videos from time to time, and one of them talked about how uh, if we form better habits, it'll affect your long-term game so much more than if you focus on like short-term goals and accomplishments. And to kind of sum one of the parts up is if you have a goal, let's say to make a card deck. Well, once you eventually make that card deck, if you do make it, then you'd have to make another goal or else you feel lost again. And I'm definitely a very goal-oriented person, so to read this was very challenging for me. But then they said to change it instead, say, rather than have a specific end goal like a card deck, that can be part of your goal, but rather than it being a finished card deck, it could be, I'm going to work 1 hour today on one of the projects that I want to create. And even after you do the card deck, then all of a sudden that hour can still get fulfilled by a new project that you want to work on. And then these small goals along the way, like making a card deck, would just be like a small achievement or like a milestone in that goal setting. So I know that's been helpful for me to remember that, yeah, a lot of what I do is not short-term success. And I think that's why social media can be frustrating because it definitely awards those who are quicker and those who can do spit painting or those who are able to just create like pretty girl profile drawings. And I'm not trying to throw shade, but I think it's much easier for them to pop out a girl profile drawing than if I was to make like another one of these, because this just takes a long time with traditional medium. And I think for a little bit I might have been bitter in October or November because seeing the new Instagram guidelines about how reels and videos are the new hot ticket to gaining followers and staying relevant, I didn't want to change my whole career path to revolve around making video content to just stay relevant on Instagram. And thankfully I've been able to find this kind of happy medium where basically I just record myself drawing while I'm drawing it. Like I'll do like short little snippet cuts, and you can just stitch it together and make a video then at the end. So it still counts. I can't make as many as some people, but I think I found this happy medium where I don't let it bother me as much as I used to the past 2 months. And I have to be okay with the fact that, yeah, since I work with pencil, I'm always going to be just a tad slower, even though I could be the fastest pencil artist in the world. But since I like everything having kind of a tightness and a nice fine edge, things just take me a little longer. So I think when it comes to pushing hard, just remember it's changing little habits and just doing them consecutively. That's the real goal. Not so much like this month I have to create 4 or 7 different illustrations. I have to do 17 TikTok or reels. And if you give yourself those hard goals, yeah, you might hit them, but then you might not ever feel fully satisfied with what you're doing. And I think part of what I needed to remind myself is just working for 3 to 4 hours a day on different projects, and I'm like head down focused on them, makes me feel so much more fulfilled than when I post an Instagram piece and I'm basically relying on it to be received well for me to feel good about it, which is very unhealthy. And I don't recommend that to any artist out there. So, okay, moving on. Sorry. Let's see here. Oh, hello, hello. Oh, hello, Liliana. Oh, the chat just jumped. Hold on. Oh, there was a lag on the thing. That's good to know. That's good to know. And the plant is mistletoe to kind of keep in line with like the Christmas theme as the last stream of 2021. And then, yeah, so we're going to be moving all of the streaming stuff back into the basement. And I think we're going to use my better computer so that hopefully the streams have a lower latency. And hopefully, though, is the audio okay? Like, can you at least see and hear me pretty all right? Let us know so that we can make adjustments before January 5th. It's not called shadow banned, even though that is happening to basically everyone that's not making video content right now. Why can't I think of the word? What is it right now that we're on Instagram? I also feel like I drew this way too big. Since I tend to draw smaller, when I draw bigger like this, is another one of those things where it'll just take me a little longer, because then I want every gradation that I create with the value scale to be very clean. I don't want a lot of rough edges, so I try to clean it up. Let's see. Elena says, Instagram has also gotten to me and it's really bugging me. One of my good friend's account hit the algorithm jackpot and it's still growing like crazy, and I'm so jealous, which is not healthy. Not at all. And I feel you, because I was literally going through that same thing the past 2 months. And something that I have learned for sure right now, Instagram is heavy promoting Reels. So if you want to get or find more success on Instagram right now, I promise that it is going to be Reels and video content. I talked to my friend, actually Devin, the book who I showed, and like I said, she's been like a social media queen the past year, and she's always up to date with what to do to get further ahead. And she even does things like she'll follow music accounts where they kind of list the most popular reel music that week, and she's definitely playing the game very hard and very smart. And if that's not for you, like you still want to, do art and not feel like you're just following the trends, that's okay. But when someone is following the trends and they're playing it really smart, like Devin, you just don't get jealous or bitter. Just take it as a learning opportunity to say, like, okay, well, what are they doing that I could learn from? Or a better way to look at it would be, I can respect the hustle, and I'm glad that another artist is doing well, because then that means that people have an interest in art, which would mean if I do art, there would be an interest in what I do as well. So I definitely believe in the theory of, I always word this wrong, but it's when the sea level rises, all ships float higher. I know I butchered the saying, but essentially what it means is if all the artists are doing better, or like we collectively do better, then that just pulls all of us up, because then we'll influence each other, we'll share what worked, what didn't. And that's something that I think is important as an artist, is to definitely share that with your art community. And I definitely have found a lot of really close friends that have been kind of my backbone in helping me understand the art world and what works, what doesn't. And I'm so grateful for my art friends. And that's something that I hope every artist that's watching this can find that. And then more recently, what I found is not only is my art friends important, but people that are not artists and having them around is important, because I felt like my art career was really taking off, but my personal life was, I don't want to use the word suffering. That makes it sound dramatic, but I'll say I wasn't giving it attention, or I wasn't really giving it a lot of time. And Josh, who I don't want to, stroke his ego too much, but he has really changed me for the better, and making me appreciate people for just being people, and seeing everyone as their own main characters, and everyone having an interesting story to tell if you just ask them. And I think what really helped me too is recognizing that I can learn a lot from people that aren't artists, and that can actually help me in my art career, because they'll tell me stories, or there'll be experiences I have with them that really influence the way I do art. Actually, a great example is my Queen of Cups. It's actually based on my cousin's fiance, and she was at this summer vacation that me and Josh went to with their family. And I didn't know a lot about Olivia before we went. I knew that she was very polite. I thought she was kind of quiet. I didn't really know her as a person. And then we did a tarot reading on her. Josh was the main reader, and it was like midnight. But when we started, the reading was so good. She had everyone in the room crying at some point, and she was so honest and so bluntly open about her feelings without it feeling attention grabby. It was so authentic and it was so real. And she's not an artist, but man, did she really affect the way I not only saw her, but then when I looked at the Queen of Cups card, I was like, I have to have you be the subject matter. I was like, can I please use your likeness? And she got really excited. She came over. We did a photo shoot for the reference. And it was amazing. And now when I do the art of that card, like as I'm drawing her in it, I want to make it as serene as I possibly can to represent how I feel about her as a person. And, I don't always get that with even art people. Sometimes you'll get those experiences with people that aren't quote unquote just artists. And I think I did have a bad habit in the past of aligning myself only with people that were artists. And I think that was actually a misstep. So now that I'm growing up and I'm getting older, I'm realizing more and more how to see everyone as someone I could get to know and be friends with and learn and grow from. All that good stuff. I don't really want to draw lips on this one. It'll be implied that she wants to go in for a kiss. Oh, let's see here. Sorry, I've been super rambly today. Oh, hello. I only have 10 minutes to say, but I want to say hello. Hello. Jim says, awesome advice. Thank you. Definitely going to try the scheduling thing. Yeah, try it out and don't make it super overwhelming. So if like my 1 to 5 is too much for you, maybe try just 2 hours a day and then an hour each. And then try to give a break in between those hours, so like a 20-minute one. I know that really helped me yesterday, and I think that's going to definitely affect the way I do art going into 2022. At least managing it. Oh, Yaskar says, I've always been curious about your swordplay project. Also, I think what I like the most about art is the stories that they tell and the wonders that they bring about the world it takes place in. I feel like swordplay has always been this project that I've allowed myself to put on the back burner for so many years because it wasn't a project that would make me, well, I think I'm telling myself this as a way to like validate not working on it, but like I needed something to give more financial stability because as an independent artist, every month is different and there could be some months that just aren't good. And I wanted to create projects first that I knew would create some type of revenue return. So like the card decks for sure have been doing that. The tarot deck I think will do that. And even though I love tarot and like I do have good intentions behind why I'm doing it, things like swordplay, I don't know if it'll sell well as like my tarot deck. And I think that's why it's always been on the back burner because it's more of like a passion project more so than like a security one. But they say you should never work out of fear. And I feel like that my whole fear with the swordplay project has been that it won't give me security. And the older I get, the more silly it sounds because I think people will connect with the story. I really do. I hope they will. You always think that you have a good idea, but then, you put it out in the world and they might be like, no. But I personally think it's a good story. And I think what I have to come to terms with even if people don't connect with it, at least I got to make what I wanted to make. And if it even affects a few people where it's like, versions of my younger self that I'm glad the story was able to touch them, then that's all that it really should be worth, And that's why once I finish these 2 projects, the card deck and my tarot deck, I'm going to really give swordplay an actual try this time. And I'm not going to half-ass it like I did in the past. I'm going to fully dive into it. But thank you. Brendan, hello. What's up, Timothy? Longtime fan of your work. I'm the designer who helps out with the Sandhills brewing labels. They're our neighbors. Thanks for sharing about your journey. I can relate. Well, thank you, Brendan. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I actually do beer bird labels for this beer company in Kansas City, Missouri. And it's been great. I've been able to practice drawing wildlife, and those have been really good practices for me. But surprisingly, I haven't been able to try the beer yet because of the pandemic. I haven't been able to go to Kansas City, and I should bother Jonathan again to send me a small case, and I'll pay him. But I want to try these beers that I'm doing the art for, and I'm not even a big beer guy, but he kind of convinced me that sours were actually worth it. And last time I saw him, he had me try a couple, and I have to admit, I don't like beer, but I actually do like the sour IPA stuff he was giving me. But yeah, nice to meet you officially. Oh my gosh, Kendor, it's almost 4 a.m. Go to bed. Like, thanks for stopping in, but go to bed. You deserved it. Honeygut said, oh, the chat jumped on me. Hold on. Honeygut said, EDS is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. In short, the cartilage in my joints is lacking, so it makes me super flexible, but causes a lot of joint pain and makes it easy for things to pop out of place. Oof. Oh, I am sorry to hear that. Yeah, hopefully you kind of found a way to work with that and it not be super distressing on your body. How have we been? How have we been? Horrible the last 2 months. I say horrible, but it's really not been that bad. Things are actually pretty good. That's the funny part is I was trying to explain this to Josh because he sometimes gets worried about me when I'm having like an art slump. But I always tell him like me as a person are split into two facets. I have my art life and who I am as an artist, and then I have my personal life and who I am as Tim. So I always now do like Tim as my or Timothy as who I am as a person, and then vonnart as my art career. Timothy as a person has been great. I have a great house, and I love Josh. I love our cats that we have. We're not in like a super stressful financial burden right now. So like in terms of my life, things are actually pretty great. But me as an artist, things are like, they haven't been this bad in I would say years. And it's hard to explain that, yeah, even though I'm struggling in the art world, that my personal life is great. Because I think for a lot of people, they're one and the same. But for me, they're definitely two separate entities. And I could be doing the, what's that thing called where you isolate? Oh, what's that called? Like you put into boxes. Anyways, that's kind of how I do things. I like store energies differently. And my art career, I definitely store differently than my personal life. So yeah, I would say personally great, art career bad, but things have gotten much better this week specifically. And that's great. I was trying to think of something clever. But I think even just doing these streams again, I think this will help out. Because I think sometimes just talking out loud is nice. Where I think when I just hold it all inside, I think that can be just destructive. Because I'm very critical of myself. So I think I have a lot of those heavy critiques that just float around my head all day when I feel that I'm lacking. All right, let's see here. Let me scroll back down. Schwa says, I mean, kind of shadow banned. They stopped all forms of ads without giving us a reason why. I know there's a name for it, though, and I can't believe I can't think of it right now. I feel like it starts with the letter P. I can't think of it. But yeah, I think with the whole Instagram shadow banning thing, I think what kind of helped, and I know this might sound gross when you first hear it, but I promise it has a better reason, is hearing that a lot of my other friends were struggling as well. And it doesn't mean that I'm excited that they're struggling, because that's horrible. it meant that I felt like I wasn't alone in realizing that Instagram's been weird for more than just me. Because sometimes when you feel isolated in like going through a struggle, it can feel like the world on your shoulders, and it feels like it's your fault. Like it's, and I do that a lot. Where if anything's not going well, I blame myself instantly, and I must be doing something wrong, and I need to correct that. And for the most part, it can be a good thing because then it means that I am, have enough self-awareness to realize that I could be the one at fault here, and I shouldn't just blame my environment. But with Instagram, I just could not figure it out. So hearing that other people were struggling with it too made me realize, okay, I can take a breath because it's not just me. And maybe a lot of you have been feeling that way too. And I can tell you, I talk to a lot of art people, especially a lot of people that have bigger following counts, and they've been hit as well. So even if you're a small artist, a bigger artist, doesn't matter. Everyone's been kind of hit with the algorithm recently, and I think hopefully that helps reassure you a little bit. The one thing I will say is some tips that I've been told for doing well on Instagram. One, focus entirely on Reels. So if you really want to do well on Instagram, you do have to play the Reels game. And then two, apparently, and this is what I've been told. I didn't fact check this. I tried Googling, but you know how Google searches can go with trying to figure out social media stuff. Apparently using around 5 hashtags actually works better now than using up to 30. And try to be more deliberative in terms of what hashtags you're using. So instead of using like fantastical art illustration, just put art and artist and pencil drawing or original art. Try not to be too specific, and that way they can categorize you better. And apparently the same goes for TikTok. Apparently having very clean, concise hashtags works better than a bunch of complicated ones. And I'm going to test a lot of these out in the coming months, so I'll be able to kind of give you guys feedback, because as I'm trying to get back into the game, but do it in a way that's healthy for me, in a way that I'm not trying to just play the game, I'll let you guys know what worked for me and what didn't, and hopefully that'll help you guys as well. Kendor says, on days like today, I wish you were still on Twitch so I could have rated you. Oh, so since I just finished streaming over there, is YouTube treating you better? I love YouTube. I do like Twitch for what it is, but YouTube is such a home for me. I think it would be hard for me to switch everything back to Twitch again, because what I like about YouTube is it'll post your videos afterwards, and then I can also share a lot of my pre-recorded content. So I have nothing against Twitch and people that want to use it, because Josh watches Twitch pretty much every day, so I almost hear Twitch in the background, and it's pretty fun. But I think for me personally, I'm gonna stick to YouTube. But thank you though for considering the raid. And if I was on before you, I would have rated you. Elena says, thanks a lot for the advice. I'm currently also banned myself from going into her main page or look at her numbers to also just try to stop myself from being as jealous. Oh, I had to reread that. I was like, wait, what are you saying? Yes, I think it's very easy to look at someone else succeeding, not even just on Instagram. It could be another good example is when we're at cons and you see another artist succeeding, and you take it so harshly sometimes. And I've done this even recently where it doesn't matter what stage or point in your career you are. I think you will always feel that little tinge of jealousy, and if not jealousy, a little tinge of self-destructiveness, where you kind of go into I'm not as good as they are, or I'll never get as good as they are. You start to do this negative self-talk, which can be extremely damaging. I think one of the reasons why my career has been okay the past 7 years is I'm kind of bullheaded on looking at the bright side of things. I always joke that you can't spell optimistic without Tim, because if you focus on what is wrong, and this is actually, it's funny that I've been reading books recently that kind of reiterate this. If you focus on what's wrong, you're going to get more of what's wrong. But if you focus on what you're doing right and what you're succeeding at, you're going to get more of that. But our brain has such a tendency to want to focus and like laser focus on the mistakes we're making or what we could be doing better. But that actually hurts us in the long run, because then you'll just be getting more of that. And I'm a big believer in manifesting. So if you keep thinking about, oh, I'll never make as much money as another artist, or I'll never get the numbers that they make on Instagram or whatever it is, then that's what's going to happen. I really do believe that is because you're focusing on what's wrong. So hopefully that helps. I know sometimes I need those reminders too, sometimes, of like, okay, Tim, what's going well? Because it's so easy to focus on what could be better. Oh, Sean's here too. Especially Sean. He's the best friend I've ever had ever. Wow, can't get enough of that guy. Timothy, 20 always. Yeah, so it's funny that Sean's here too, because me, Alex, and Sean have gotten really close the past year and a half. And we do these weekly chats. And now we're like slowly adding some other people as well. I don't want to get too many names, or else I might stir up the pot with some people. But it's really nice having close art friends that not only can you share your numbers and like what went well, what didn't work well, but I think just having encouragement and having people that you can turn to when you're having a specific issue in the art world, because it can be a very isolating feeling when you're just trying to do this on your own. And I think having friends makes all the difference, that can feel the same type of struggle that you might feel. And it's not even that they're just listening, but that it could also resonate with them very hard. So Sean is definitely one of those friends. Sean is definitely one of my best friends. He, we'll say, had a interesting 2021. I won't say how many pieces he was able to finish, but we'll just say it was under what was expected. And I think he's going into 2022 kind of with a revigoration that I kind of have right now too. And that we really want to kind of go for it a bit more and hold each other accountable, so that we can feel more proud at the end of the year and look back at our year in review and be like, yeah, I felt like I accomplished most of what I wanted to this year. Kendra says, may I add, non-artists are so inspirational and are often able to give a new perspective on things. Oh, 100%. 100%. Tefalina says, your rambling is great. We've missed you, so it's fine. Oh, thank you, Tefalina. I gotta get started on this other dirt kit. I looked up at the time and I'm like, okay, I have about 40 minutes left. And I think for some of the streams starting in January, we might actually go, I know Josh might wince at this, but I think we might go for 3 hours. Just because if I'm doing these full mermaid characters, I might not be able to finish them on the stream, obviously, but I at least want to give enough time to do more of the rendering process, not just the first stage. Because this is I'll probably still do another pass even after the stream's over and really clean this up, but at least you get to kind of see the underdrawing stage and me starting to render. But I feel like people sometimes really want to see the rendering stage, even if it is a little slower. So I'm going to try to do some of that for the January streams. Kendra says, you know me, once an owl, always an owl. I mean, 4 a.m. is definitely pushing it. I definitely am used to doing 1 to 2 a.m. nightly shifts, but 4 a.m.'s pushing it, I would say. Try to get some sleep for yourself, Kendor. Oh, thank you, Sean. Compartmentalize. I definitely do that a lot when it comes to my life as a person and then my life as an artist. To me, there are two separate entities that happen to inhabit the same body, There we go. Let's see here. Where was I? Raul says, the word you're looking for is carp. Oh my gosh, now I can't even say it. Compartmentalizing. Oh, you know what? I'm going to stop embarrassing myself and saying that word. Kendor says, I am sure you will soon swim all right again with the art side. You have always been able to pick yourself up so well. I think so too. Not even in an arrogant way, but I feel like I'm one of those people, if something's bugging me, I try to actively search for solutions. And I try to be the person that actually follow through with what I find. So lately I found that storytelling is very important to me. And the relationship I have, not only within my art, but then the relationship of even values within each other. I think that's going to be my word for 2022 is focusing on relationships. Because the small parts I think that were successful in here was when I was really looking at the relationships between values, but a lot of this is just craziness. But I realized as I was working on the 5-foot drawing upstairs, the giant mermaid one that I'm doing, there were a lot of scenes that require a lot of basically relying on relationships with one another so that it reads clearly. And I think that's something that I've been missing in my work. So yeah, thank you, Candor. I do feel like I'm on the right path finally, but the last 2 months were definitely a struggle. Honey says, if you're taking suggestions, if not, ignore. Maybe if you take the other leg and have it stepping towards mistletoe to help solve the slight disconnect, but capitalize on the shy hesitation. Like if I had like a, I don't know if I want him to be like just like frozen, like he can barely even move. I guess I could move his leg more forward though. Because I definitely want it to read like, you want to kiss me? Like, are you sure? Like, I'm not that cool. Like, that's the kind of look I'm trying to give to this little guy. Candor says, that's so sweet. And yeah, Twitch is tricky. I'm happy you feel at home on YouTube. The change was a good choice then. I mean, I've seen a lot of people succeed on Twitch, and I have even artists I really look up to, like Justin Gerard, and he's been rocking it on Twitch. And I think David Peterson does it as well, the mouse card creator. And they both love it there. So I definitely am not going to be sitting here being like, YouTube's definitely the better platform. I absolutely do not think that. I think that it's better for me as a person because I'm not good with technology, and I think YouTube makes it pretty simple. You'll come to learn if you come to these streams that I'm one of the least technologically savvy. So having it be as streamlined as possible helps me a lot. And Twitch just has so many features and cool gadgets that are over my head at this point. And I like that YouTube is like pretty flat and simple. And I think I'm going to keep it that way. Kendra says, I couldn't agree more. Setting your mind on things that are going well is so important. When I catch myself starting to get a bit jealous of someone else, I try to find what I like, what they do, and try to do better myself with that. Not sure if my night brain makes sense. I think we have a habit of incorporating what we see or what we believe is working into our work. And I think it doesn't always fit our style or what we are trying to do, or even like who we are as artists. I think sometimes you can kind of just tell we're playing the role temporarily to fit in with the current culture standards. So like a lot of the things with reels, I think there were a lot of artists, I'm not going to name names, but you could definitely see a lot of artists that didn't really know what they were doing with reels, but they felt they had to do it. So when they would create them, they just felt really forced, and it was kind of sad to watch because you could tell they're trying to just stay relevant in this medium that clearly is just not built for them. And I'm not even saying like it's built for people like me either. I think I struggle with it a bit. But you can really tell when someone is really not comfortable with the format and they're like just forcing it. And that's, I feel so bad because it's like, that's not you though. Like, don't force it even though you feel like you should. Because I really am one of those believers that if you do something so uniquely you and well, you will find whatever type of success you're looking, whether it's monetary or through social gain. And I think even though we preach so much of like be true to yourself and all these slogans and quotes that we see, especially on commercials and stuff, in reality, I don't think they really want you to be yourself. They just want you to buy their product. I think what I've learned though over the years is the artists that really do remain true to themselves are the ones that tend to progress further in the long run, but not in the short run. So if you're just starting out and you're an artist that is nervous because your style is like too weird and doesn't really fit a format, that's okay. You're going to find your audience, and that audience is going to love you for it. And as much, it's easy for me to say, but try not to change being that uniquely you person, because I think when I feel the most lost in the art world is when I feel like I'm trying to just adapt the new culture standard in social media. So yeah, like I said, clearly I'm just rambling for days today. Sean. Okay, yeah, Sean did 4 illustrations this year. Terrible, do better 2022. Appreciate the chat. Yes, I definitely think you could do more than 4. We've already talked about this, but if any of you are having a year like Sean has had, where you're like, where the hell did time go? Like, I thought I did more than I actually did. And I've definitely had years like that where at the end of the year, I've had it both ways, where one year I thought I barely did anything and I ended up making quite a bit of illustrations. They were just on smaller scales. And then other years, I felt like I did pretty good. And then I look back at my year and I'm like, oh, this is one of my lowest productive years. And I think that might have been the case with Sean. I think he thought he did more. And then we counted on the way home from C2E2, and it was 4. Thankfully, 5 is a good goal to hit for next year, because I definitely think you can make 5 illustrations in 1 year, Sean. Oyaskar says, by the way, I'm curious, how did you come up with the Dirt Kids? I feel like it has to be a subconscious inspiration of Pikmin mixed with, if you've seen the Final Fantasy XIV art books, they're not the Moogles. There's these little radish sprite looking things where they're wearing a brown collar and their head looks like a radish, or not even a radish, like a garlic. And I know a lot of people do these things, or even if you've seen any of Bobby Chew videos on YouTube, he does these little white plant people. So I feel like it must have been a mix of all of that. Mostly I would say Pikmin, because the idea of like growing sprouts out of their head that specifically turn into like flowers or some kind of flora. But I think the reason why Final Fantasy was a big inspiration for me is because of that Final Fantasy XIV book. And I loved the shape of like this really bulbous head, a very small neck, and then like a teardrop body. But then I the more I like was playing with these idea of these little dirt kids, the more I thought it would be cool of like who they become depend on the environment that they're in. So if they're, I haven't really drawn a lot of my sad dirt kids that I've had in my head for a while, like ideas that I've had. But imagine like a dirt kid who is just in a really bad environment, like the gardener just does not ever water them, they're overheated, and they'll just probably be more like tired looking and exhausted, and their plant might be a little more dry and shriveled looking. Versus like one that's really well kept for and loved, I think would just be blooming and just happy and cheerful. And I usually do more of those. So yeah, I would think those would be the inspirations. Fem says, kitties are on my lap and streams that are back. Life are good. And vonnart streams that are back. Life is good. You know what? It feels good to be back. I don't know why I stopped doing these. Or no, I take it back. It was because the world was in a really crazy state the past 2 years, and when cons came back, I was just overwhelmed. But now that I'm finding that focus again and pulling that more inward, I definitely think me and Josh will be more on track to do a more consistent schedule with these next year. At least that's the goal. And you know what? You guys can hold me to that. How much time do I have left? Like a half hour? Yeah, I can definitely clean these up in a half hour. trying to think of what I want to clean up first. I might do these plants first. I'm gonna pull up. I have mistletoe on this separate screen so I can get a good reference here. Let me move this over. There we go. Okay, where was I? Candor says, gee, I was never able to tell you are not a tech savvy. Remembering the third hand. Yeah, sometimes if there's a delay, that looks like I have 3 hands. Let's see here. Candor says, oh, I love unique and weird styles. Couldn't agree more. I mean, those are the ones that stand out the most. Like, I think if we're honest with how we view art, I think we get the most excited when we see an art style that we've never seen before, and it's like spellbinding. All right, let me look at how this mistletoe looks. I might sharpen my pencil. Okay, it's gonna get really loud for like 2 seconds. Bear with me. There we go. I used to be the person that would hand sharpen everything because I thought it would create a better point, but I realized it's pretty much the same. I was telling myself that I had to hand sharpen because it was just a better sharpness, but once I found a pretty good pencil sharpener, it saves me so much time. I can't even tell you how much time I've wasted, not only sharpening, but whenever the tip breaks in a handheld pencil sharpener, you have to then like dig it out, and then that takes a while, and then you have to resharpen it again. So it's definitely a process. Oh, and for my tea lovers out there, I feel like I have that tea emoji. Where is it? Today's tea flavor is Lady Grey. Actually, Josh got me into this one because I'm not a huge fan of Earl's Grey at all. It's like one of my least favorite. That one and chamomile, for some reason, those are the only two that I'm not a fan of. But Lady Grey, he showed me, and I love this one. And then weirdly, I don't drink caffeinated tea anymore. Something that I found out, I mean, this could be one of those things that you see on Google and you're like, what, that's crazy. But then it turns out it's not even a legit source. But I was told that caffeine actually isn't a stimulant. It's just a suppressor it basically suppresses a reaction in your brain. Or no, not a reaction in your brain. It basically messes with your brain in the way that if you are actually feeling tired, caffeine will block certain transmitters to let your body know that you're actually tired. So caffeine basically is just a numbing agent that makes you feel like you're more awake than you actually are. So for that, that messed with me because I have tea basically for a while. I was having it every day, and all of it had caffeine. And then Josh was getting these ghost caffeine drinks, and I was drinking that every day. And then I would have a crash around 2 p.m. and I always just assumed that meant I was getting older, which partially I'm sure. But I think it was because I was drinking so much tea with caffeine, and when the caffeine would run out of my system, or it wouldn't be affecting me as much, I would just crash. I'd be down for the night, we'll say, just out. So definitely fact check me on that. But something else I learned though, for better sleep, don't drink caffeine after 12 or 2 p.m. Apparently caffeine can stay in your system for 8 hours. And I know that was really messing with my sleep pattern when I was drinking tea. I mean, I would drink tea all day. So I learned that it can definitely still be in your system. So that's why it might be hard to fall asleep at night. And apparently no citrus within a half hour of going to bed, because I changed that too. I don't have clementines at night anymore. I save them just for the morning, and something about citrus apparently can be a stimulant. So you can already kind of see the difference of this stage versus the next stage I'm going at. I definitely push things a little darker. I'm playing with contrast a bit more. I'm doing more finer edges on the lines just to clean it up. Oh, where was I? Yeah, Sean made a book that was last year. And he's finally able to bring it to cons, which has been exciting. I think having your art book at a convention is really cool because then when someone buys it, it's like they really want to get to know like you more intimately than just as a print. Because a book usually has more words in it. There's either more descriptive how I drew this or like tidbits on what goes on in your life. See, I love selling my art book at shows. The only thing I don't like about this lead in this pencil is it still is very rough, where sometimes if I want a nice clean edge, this is why I still use my mechanical pencils sometimes, because sometimes I want a cleaner edge that's not as textural, if that makes sense. Like it doesn't carry the tooth of the paper as well. You can kind of flatten it into a nice value. Oh, you guys are cute. Yeah, I was finding the same thing out about caffeine is if you drink it, past lunch or, around 12 to 2, if you're drinking caffeine at like 8 p.m., I think you'll still feel it by the time you try to go to bed. This is another reason why drawings take me forever. Because I like to hyper zoom in on edges to clean them up. Actually, Josh, if you're listening, could you go run upstairs? I have my yellow mechanical pencil. I believe it's next to the drawing or on the bed. Could you grab that for me? Because that is the HB lead, and this is I think this is the 2B, so this is a little darker than what I think I want right now. There we go. So you can see how I'm like just adding even just a little punch to it can make them stand out that much more. Kendra says, did you lose the end of your Pentel Orenz? They have some new ones here with a softer grip. Still the .2 ones. Now that I have a new job, I will finally be able to send y'all something soon. Oh, that'd be cool. I actually didn't know they made new ones. I'm going to have to look into that after the stream's over. I mean, I do really like these. Like, I don't mind that they don't have a grip as much, because I don't know if that would make my hands more sweaty. Maybe not. I mean, I'd definitely give them a try. I feel like there's something else I wanted to discuss with you guys because it's been so long. Oh! Movies, TV shows, and video games. Just entertainment as a whole. I have seen a lot of things the past few months. Oh gosh, where to even start? Okay, I guess I can start in October. I think I saw the best horror TV episode I'll ever see in my life. It's called Channel Zero. It was on the Shudder streaming service. And season 2, episode 1, honestly, one of the best horror things and like thrillers I've ever seen in terms of presentation, the eeriness. It was scary without being like in your face jump scare or without blood, without gore. And it's just eerie and it left you with such an unsettling feeling. And I loved it. The rest of the season, I can't vouch for. I actually think the first episode was definitely the best, and then it just kind of kept going downhill. And then by the end, it was like a tragedy. I felt like the best thing I ever saw became like a mockery at the end, and it was so sad. But that was definitely amazing. I'm thinking of, I was telling Josh actually last night, my whole life I've always loved movies, and then especially when I was in college, I started watching a bunch of movie reviewers on YouTube. I think this will be the first year I finally make like my favorite films I saw of this year, and I want to just post it on my channel. I know it's not directly art related, but if I wasn't an art person, I do think I would be some kind of a like movie reviewer, because I watch a lot of them. I try to watch a new movie almost every day, and I think it would just be really fun to share ones that I would recommend for, you know, like this was inspiring, or this one was like one of those weird pocket ones that not a lot of people know about, but I thought was really good. I'm trying to think of one this year. I mean, not really as much of a pocket hit, but the new Wes Anderson movie. Some people thought it was too much. I thought it was amazing. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of Wes Andersonisms because he kind of creates his own little genre now, but I thought they worked so well, and I was into it the whole time. So French Dispatch, I thought it was possibly one of my favorites this year. I actually really like Jojo Rabbit. I saw that earlier this year at a con. I think that got me and Josh affected, and like now when people come over, if they haven't seen it, it's one of those movies where it's like, oh, we should watch Jojo Rabbit. We've also seen a lot of bad, I will say. Speaking of Jojo Rabbit, we watched the new movie that the little boy actor is in called Silent Night, and oh boy, it was supposed to be like this fun comedy horror movie, I think. I don't know exactly what they were going for, but boy, if the mark was over here, they shot like way that direction because they missed it completely. I was not enjoying that film whatsoever. And then I'll watch other films like the A24 film Humans, and it's the one with Amy Schumer, and I thought that was, it's not one of those movies that I would recommend to people. I don't think it's excellent, but I think it's really good. I think it creates a nice atmosphere. It creates a cool family dynamic that feels believable and very relatable in a lot of ways. Because I think a lot of family movies can feel very forced, and oftentimes you're just thinking to yourself, like, no family would actually behave like this. But this family, there were definitely moments where it felt very real. As an example, there was one moment where there's two daughters, and the mom goes to the bathroom upstairs, and then you just hear the two daughters making fun of the fact that their mom keeps sending them emails with all these borderline conspiracy things that she must have found while browsing the web. And I think a lot of moms do that now, where they send their kids these like crazy links to things that the parents obviously find viable, but for a lot of our generation, we're like, well, that's obviously spam, or that's clickbait, or, you know, we don't really buy into it as much. But the heartbreaking part was the mom, as she was coming back from upstairs, could hear the two daughters making fun of her, and just to watch her stand there and just like absorb it. And it wasn't in a sad way. You could just tell it was hurtful, but it wasn't like tragic. And to me, that it was spot on. It was so accurate. So that movie I would recommend if you're into weird movies, because it's definitely a slower one, but I really enjoyed it. And then even this week I watched this movie called Birds of Paradise, and it was another like one of those weird art housey type movies with ballet, and I thought it was pretty good. And I feel like I want to give more of these type of movies shout outs that you don't hear about as much online in like normal reviews. Well, thank you, Sharapov, for subscribing. Yeah, I guess I should have mentioned, I forgot. If you are new to this channel and want to see more of these live streams or more of my pre-recorded tutorial content, you can subscribe. And I usually try posting like once every other month, like a pre-recorded video. And then, but don't hold me to that. But then streams we're going to try to do once again every Wednesday starting in January on the 5th. Oh, Josh, you couldn't find the pencil? I don't know where it was. Ugh. So what have you guys seen? I wanna have a back and forth of things that we could recommend to each other, what we liked, what we didn't. Oh, before that, Sean, by the way, I can't wait for our chat this week. I think I found a digital breakthrough that will really help with time, and I can't wait to show you. Ooh. Yeah, Sean's been trying to find the balance between doing traditional and digital that works for him. So I'm actually very curious to see what you found, Sean. Turkey says Arcane. Okay. I actually have a friend that worked as one of the lead concept designers for the second half of the show. Visually, I think Arcane is amazing. I love it. Story-wise, I'll just say it wasn't for me. I think I look for a lot of like unique and original stories, and this felt like an amalgamation of every story I've ever heard before just put into one. And I don't want to harp on it too much because my friend that worked on it, I know he spent a lot of time on it, and the team did a really good job on the visuals. I can't say anything negative about the visuals. I loved it. The story, though, I couldn't get into. And I think the plot armor was reminiscent of Game of Thrones in the last season, where it was so thick. There were times where I'm like, well, they're going to get out of this, and they're not going to really explain it either. And there's one scene, this isn't really a spoiler, but where they're on the bridge, Jinx and Echo, and a bomb goes off like right in front of both their faces, and it would kill anyone, but both of them got out basically without a scratch. And then there was one scene after that Echo was under the bridge, and then he like said he twisted his ankle or something, and I was like, so if a bomb goes off in your face, the end result is twisted ankle. And I think a lot of those type of things, whenever I'm taken out of the illusion of the fantasy, and then I'm like thinking about the logistics of things, it just doesn't sit well with me. And I felt like the show kept doing it over and over and over and over again. And even though I love League of Legends, I love Riot, I love the visual style, I don't think the show story was for me personally. I know it's like the #1 show ever right now on Netflix, and I'm not even doing it to be like if it's popular, it's not good, because I try to fight for that, because I think like a movie like Titanic is actually really great in terms of like its set design, its music, and everything, but I can understand why people don't like Titanic because it's simple, but I felt like Arcane didn't quite give me what I was looking for in that type of a show. And Kendra says they have 2 different versions. Oh, with the pencils. They have ones with softer grip, all under the Orenz name and .2. I'm going to have to try that. And they're very nicely weighted. If you can't find them, let me know. I will. I definitely will. Fem says, are you and Josh going to cosplay as these cuties at some point? Because this is adorable. The Dirt Kids? I mean, that would be kind of funny. I don't even know which one I relate to more. Because I definitely don't think I'm the shy one, but I don't think I'm also the overly forward one. I would say Josh is probably both of these. I'm sure he's not going to like that answer. Kendra says, you are so passionate about movies, games, and shows. I am sure the video would be super interesting. Like I said, I've never done this before, and I see how because I watch movie reviewers also basically every day, and they basically take clips from the trailers and the actual movies. So that must be okay under copyright because it's reviewing a product. It's not. I'd have to look more into it. I think I'm going to look more into it later this week because I want to make this video sometime next week. And I'm really excited because I'm already gathering my list. I already think I kind of know what will be my top recommendations. And then I think I might also throw in like movies that I thought I would like, but then ended up not caring for that much. And then other movies that I went into thinking, okay, well, I like the director. Good example is I'm thinking of ending things last year from Charlie Kaufman. He directed one of my favorite movies, Synecdoche, New York, and then he wrote, I think the one that most people know is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And he made this movie last year that I liked it so much. I actually rewatched it the same night after I finished watching it the first time. Uh, I loved it, but I would not recommend that to everyone because it's a slower movie. It's very dialogue heavy, and you kind of have to put the pieces together because it doesn't hold your hand at all. And I think those are my favorite movies where they give you a bunch of pieces, but they don't show you what the puzzle should look like. So then it's up to you to kind of take those and align it where you think it goes, and you build the story. And then eventually you land on something that is probably what the director or the writer tried to convey. But I like that it's open enough where you can have your own interpretations attached to it. So I'm thinking of Ending Things really had that level of vagueness while still having a certain direction. And that's the type of film I really enjoy. Raul says, oh my God, I'm constantly recommend Jojo Rabbit. Jojo was just, they did the perfect mix of humor and drama. And I always say, I think those are the best in terms of captivating people. Like you look at the Last Airbender series, and I think why it does so well is because it perfectly balances humor and then the more dramatic moments. Because if you have just all drama all the time, it can just feel not only like a Debbie Downer, but a lot of people just don't get as invested, I would say. But then if you do only all humor, well, then they might not take it seriously, and then your product becomes more of a joke. And you want to find that fine middle ground. And I feel like there are a lot of things that do it very, very, very well. And whenever I recommend a show that does it well, it's always the Last Airbender series. Let's see here. Kendor says, oh, the French Dispatch was great, so unique and refreshing. Which one was your favorite story in the paper? The first one. I was really obsessed with it kind of does like a mockery of art, but the way that it presented it was, I think, just fantastic. All three of them I enjoyed for different reasons. And then actually the ending, I really enjoyed I actually, if I say anything more, it might spoiler, so I won't say anything, but I'll say the way that they wrapped it really nicely in this package was just really cute. It was endearing. It was sad without being like teardropper sad. It was sad in like a poignant, borderline like happy way. And I think you'll understand if you actually see the movie what I am referring to here. Oh, Josh Andrew Wisdom. I can't explain how happy I am to be at this live. Well, hello. I'm glad you're able to come to one of these live. And then I was explaining before that we're going to try to do these once a week again starting in January. So January 5th will be our first one. We're going to try to move everything downstairs. I think Josh is going to try to configure a green screen so that we have a nicer backdrop. And then, yeah, look forward to that. Kinder says, my mom luckily doesn't send me those kind of emails, but she asked the neighbor kids to help her make a Twitch account so she can come to my stream. She is so sweet. Oh my God, that's really adorable. Also was asking, did you watch Dune? Plus, I have started reading Song of Achilles, and it quickly became my absolute favorite book. No, we did not see Dune yet, but I was really bummed because we wanted to go see it in theaters because everyone said, oh, well, you definitely a movie to watch in theaters. And I love Timothy, so I was thinking, okay, well, we gotta go see it. The trailer made it seem very much like, what was that movie called? Blade Runner 2049? Is that what it's 20? I think it's 2049. And I learned that it's the same director, so it made sense. But I liked how atmospheric he sometimes makes his movies. I feel like he puts a lot of personality into just the set design. And then when he shows it, he lets the camera linger on the shots longer than maybe is typical because he wants you to feel like you're in that presence. And it's a very interesting tactic. I personally like it, but I know a lot of people might say it's a little too slow. And sometimes it can be, but I think it actually works for the benefit of the film. But we will watch it eventually. And then in terms of books, I have not read Song of Achilles. I'd be curious to hear if Josh has. The only books I read right now are all nonfiction. And crazy, I used to not read almost at all. And this year I think I'm at 6 books, which is obviously more than the average for me. And a lot of them have been dealing a lot with kind of self-improvement and focusing on better business strategies. Maybe that kind of got me lost a little bit too, because I had so much of this knowledge acquired from these books about how to build your business better, but I wasn't reading enough books on how to, on just art and staying true to the personality and the flavor of your work to stay consistent. And that's something that I'll probably do later in my life, is write a book about the relationship between art and the difference between making art and making money as an artist, because I definitely think there is a very clear difference, and then how to balance both, because I think that's the struggle that a lot of artists have, is balancing both. Let's see here. Sean says, you see that trailer for the new Daniels film from A24. Also watched The Green Knight on the plane. Another good out of 10 visually. Loved the ending though. No, I did not see the new Daniels film trailer. I probably won't see it because I do this thing now where I don't watch trailers of movies I think I'll like. The Daniels, if those of you who don't know, they directed this movie called Swiss Army Man, and we actually saw it all together back in the day, me, Sean, and our roommates at the time. And it was great. It was like one of those surprisingly good movies and surprisingly touching. Like it had no right being that touching for being a kind of a humorous, like, fart joke movie, kind of. But you kind of learn that everything that's happening has like a second meaning to it. And then once you learn the associations, it becomes very poignant. I'm going to use that word a lot for a lot of movies lately, because that one definitely was. And the directors did such a good, unique way of telling that story that anything they do from here on out, I'm on board. Like, let's see what else you create. Very excited to hear that they made one and that it's going to be coming out. I'm very excited to hear that. So yeah, news to me. And then Green Knight, Sean has this way of describing movies that I think is spot on for some of them. Green Knight, good visuals out of 10. And yes, I think it is one of those movies that visually I could watch it while drawing almost any day of the week. Story I thought was okay, and I know it's based on the Round Table, Knights of the Round Table, and Arthur, and I liked a lot of the imagery that they were using as metaphors or the symbology that they were using, but I just don't think it all clicked together fully for me. But I will say visually I thought it was phenomenal. There are some parts with the fox that looked a little too 3D rendered in the scene, and then even with the giants it looked a little too fake, like you could tell it was green screened. But for the most part, I would say there were some visuals that were just stunning. I think everyone should watch it just for the visuals alone. I have not watched Wheel of Time. I know Josh I believe it was Josh talking about it, where it was like a book that, Josh, was this you that talked about it? Where it was a book that you read when you were younger? But that, I believe, is on Amazon right now, and I definitely want to watch that as well. Candor says, actually, I found both versions on Amazon, and I will DM the links of those on Discord. Oh, thank you. Yes, please do. Oh, Jens, hello. Late greetings from Denmark. Hello, hello. Candor says, I really liked the ending as well. I do have to say I did not enjoy the last story as much as the first two. And yes, I agree on the ending. It was very well concepted. Yes, French Dispatch, definitely great for me. Especially, I was telling Josh, I think around that time period, I was just really bummed with a lot of the shows we were watching recently. It was like, ooh, and this is definitely going to ruffle some feathers, but it was like Arcane, Midnight Mass, and there was a third one that people were like super hyping up to us, and then we watched it and we were like, yeah, it's okay. Midnight Mass I thought had a really good, this is something I agree with Sean when we talked about it, is it has a good atmosphere. I love the atmosphere it created, and they were really good with a lot of the visuals, especially with the cat eye effect that they did on the angel demon. I won't spoil it, so I won't say what it is, but I think the thing that bothered me with Midnight Mass is the way they try to wrap it up, and the characters didn't feel like real people. They felt like voice boxes for the writer to get how he felt about a subject through. And that always bothered me when characters just feel like a hollow vessel, basically, that has no real personality. They're just there to say the words that the writer wants to say. And there were 2 times specifically in Midnight Mass. If you've seen it, it's when they're on the couch talking about death. Real people do not talk like that at all. They don't do 10-minute monologues and then like one does a 10-minute monologue and then the next one does a 10-minute monologue, and then they never interrupt each other. They never say yes or not or anything. It was really bizarre watching that. Me and Josh like looked at each other like, what is happening? Like the first half of the show we thought was really great with how they built the characters, and the second half they became more archetypes than real people, which kind of bothered me. Arcane I already talked about. There was one more show we watched that... what was the one with Nicole Kidman? 9 Perfect Strangers. Started off so strong. I thought it would be my favorite show of the year. And then halfway through, they started fumbling, and then they just could not pick it back up. And by the end, they dropped the ball. They definitely missed the mark. Josh, wasn't there another one we watched that was... It started so strong and then it dropped it? Oh, White Lotus. I thought White Lotus was strong start, and then it just kept fumbling, and then it never picked it back up, and then it felt silly. And it was like one after the next. So I actually started rewatching Queen's Gambit because I was like, I need something to remind me that there's good content being produced. And then we saw The French Dispatch, and then I was like, okay, all is good. Gator says, well, personally, I love Dune and would want to watch it again when I get the chance to purchase it on YouTube. It's a bit slow, but I feel it's perfect because it would be visual overload otherwise. And I don't mind slow movies. I watch a lot of European movies, and those do tend to be a bit on the slower side, and that's totally okay with me. So if a movie's slow, doesn't deter me from watching it at all. Kendor says, I'm sure you would like Song of Achilles. It's very well written, and the literal character design is very well done, with a lot of love from the author. I mean, that's one of those like I would want to do on a audiobook, because I feel when it comes to books right now, the only ones I can really get into, I think, are nonfiction, which is kind of sad. I think eventually I'll get back into fiction, but right now I find them so appealing, reading about, like, I just read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and then the one I just finished was The Tao Te Ching. That one's on my nightstand. Someone gave it to me at a con, and it just had a lot of really good topics. It's like for those of you who don't know the Tao Te Ching, it's not a poem book. I don't even know how to describe it accurately. It's a book that has 81 different passages, some long, some short, and they're very vague. They're sometimes silly, sometimes serious, and they talk about how to gain a better inner sense of self and what you actually need versus want. And some of the passages I thought were really good, and I would recommend it. It's a short read. You could finish it in like an hour and a half, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm trying to find more of those style of books. Oops. Oh, it just jumped. Here we go. Jen says, speaking of visuals, how much have you seen of Final Fantasy XIV? Not everyone can dedicate time to an MMO, especially not in this landscape. The designs are incredible, especially the expansions. Josh has been obsessed with it. He's been playing every day, basically, since the new one came out. Whenever I pass by, some of the new things he shows me look great. I know when I talk to Josh about MMOs, I should like Final Fantasy the best out of all the MMOs I've ever seen, because, I mean, I even have Final Fantasy figures sitting right here. So Final Fantasy X was like the most influential game to me at the time, but I think in terms of the actual looks of a game, I actually think World of Warcraft does it better. And I know that might be a hot take as well. But something I don't like from video games that they all seem to be doing now is they use this realistic lighting. So everything looks a little washed out, especially if they're standing in sunlight. And then you get these harsh shadows. And that I don't mind as much as bloom effect lighting. A good example would be the difference between Wind Waker and then the Wind Waker remake. I think the bloom lighting just makes everything bleed into each other, and it's very soft and uh, at least Wind Waker still has somewhat of the cell shaded style. But then you have other games that do it, and I just don't think it is done well. And then everything kind of has this lens flare effect to it that I'm not really into. But when you look at Blizzard's World of Warcraft, everything's hand painted, and you feel like you're in this fantastical world. Where you look at Final Fantasy 14, and sometimes the levels are clearly like oversized, so they could fit a lot of characters in it, like a meeting, and they'll just be like 100-foot castle ground that's just like a giant square, and I don't get too I don't know. I find that to be kind of lazy in terms of designing, but I've seen other things that Josh has showed me that has been beautiful. So I think it's just a mix match. And I'm not saying World of Warcraft's all beautiful, because some of the starting zones in World of Warcraft are like dreadful. But a lot of the rework stuff that they did, I think is like 10 out of 10 for like a fantasy MMO game. And I think 14 always hit like kind of like an 8 out of 10. You know, like it's definitely good, but it's not a lot that I would find super memorable. But also, who am I to judge? Because I barely played it. You know, it's like someone that has watched like 15 minutes of a movie and tries to give it a rating. So in a lot of ways, I shouldn't be judging them unless if I played it to a substantial amount that I could actually give it a fair take. Oscar yes says, does sketchiness go away from improved dexterity or knowledge of what you're drawing, or is it all about line confidence or any other aspects? I want to clutter less and erase less. I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing to do a lot of underdrawing, because admittedly I don't think I do enough, and sometimes my characters look really stiff. I think that's one of the habits I need to work on breaking. And I think once you get to this stage though, you shouldn't really be adding too many new lines. I mean, I do like letting pieces grow organically. This is actually another talk that I've had with Alex and Sean about how I'm definitely an artist that will let a piece grow however it wants, and I don't try to hold it to a certain standard with each one. So like if I started this drawing with these two dirt kids, but halfway through I was like, you know what, it'd be kind of cool if we did a third one that was like peering behind him, like hiding from the kissy mistletoe dirt kid. Like I'll go in and add that then. So I'm very okay with the story changing as I'm working on it, where Sean likes to have the whole story set before he even gets to the pencil to paper stage. And uh, I I actually don't think sketchiness is a bad thing to have. And if you have to erase a little more, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it means that you're allowing more possibilities of line work to occur in your work, because you're laying down more potential lines that could be darkened. So I wouldn't try to look at it as such a bad thing. Um, Honestly, yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize we're over time. Oh boy, that went fast. Okay, let me just do a quick pass on this dirt kid with the darker pencil, and then we'll end it up. Man, that went really fast. Okay, well, welcome back to streaming. Yeah, time goes a lot faster when you're streaming. Kind of forgot that. So to build up a value, and that's why I think I drew these a little too big, because to build up a consistent value, sometimes it just takes a little time, because you just got to slowly build up the value. Because if you push too dark too quickly, it might build this inconsistent value range, and I want it to look as consistent as possible. Maybe have a little glow in the middle. Like as I go back and do this one, I'll probably have just like a little bit of pillow shading in the middle, so it's just a tad lighter, but then the outside rim will be darker. Then as I get into the more fine refining stage of the value, I'll turn my pencil more upright and I'll kind of fill in some of those sketchbook crevices. Because I like the sketchbook having texture, but sometimes I don't want it to be as noisy. Like you can see the one on the right's a little more noisy than the one on the left, even currently. And then as I go back in and just do value pass after value pass after value pass, it looks like more of a smooth value rather than it being so rough. And sometimes I like the roughness in a drawing. So don't just assume that it's bad if it means it has a little bit more of the texture showing. There's some artists, actually my hero, Alan Williams, he usually has more of the texture showing, and I think it works so well for him. So it kind of comes down to preference for your own work, and I don't think one's better than the other for sure. Them says, not overtime, enjoying time. I mean, for real though, that time went so fast. Probably because I was talking about books too much in the beginning. I'm telling you, books get me so excited that whenever I find good ones, I just want to share them with like the entire world. Like, go get these books. Go support these artists. Yeah, let's make this one just a tad darker, and then I'll cut the stream off. So if you have any last-minute questions or comments, feel free to add them now. And then if not, we'll see you hopefully in January. And I hope you all have a good Christmas if you celebrate, and a Happy New Year. I know I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of planning and getting ready for next year so that when I start tackling the work week again, it'll have more of a consistent schedule that I can follow. And that way I can be more on top of these long ongoing projects without feeling overwhelmed. Because I think it's really easy when you have a bunch of things on your plate all at once to feel so overwhelmed that you end up not doing anything. I think it's better to just take one at a time and do little by little. Because like my giant mermaid drawing upstairs, and if you guys are my Patreon backers, you get to see the progress the entire time. That's why I don't post a lot about it on Instagram. But I mean, every time I do an hour, I might do like a square inch of work, like maybe, depending on how clean and how smooth it goes. So that piece is going to take thousands of hours. And it's sometimes hard to want to sit down and work on a piece that you know won't be finished for years, because we're so conditioned by social media nowadays to cultivate this like now response. And I think it finally got to me this past year, and I'm trying to revert back into my old way of thinking of, nope, I like playing the long game. I don't want to play the short game strategy. And I'm okay with things that take longer. It's okay to focus on quality over quantity. And if you're really skilled, you can do both. And that's my goal, is to try to work more on being both, even though I definitely feel like I'm a little slower with some things than I should be. So I think working a little faster is going to be one of my goals, without losing the quality. That's important to note. Kendra says, oh yeah, time was flying watching. I am totally not awake anymore. I want to bed when you told me to, and I am sleep typing right now. Yeah, Kendra, you gotta go to bed. It's like, what, 5 a.m. now for you? What are you doing? And then says, I wish you and Josh and your loved ones a very Merry Christmas and a good start into 2022. Please stay safe and happy. Would definitely stay safe. I was like, wait, Tim, where are you going with this? Yes, I'm definitely planning on having a great rest of the year. I know me and Josh have a couple more family things, and then we are done. And we can just kind of sit back and enjoy. I know he'll probably play a lot of 14. I've been replaying Final Fantasy X, and I forgot how much I loved it. And then I know it's kind of late on the stream, but I finished, I'll talk about it more in January, but I finished 2 games. I played Ratchet & Clank, the new one, and Psychonauts 2. And Ratchet & Clank is one of the best visual games I think I've ever seen in my life. Story was it's passable. I think it leans younger, so I think it wasn't quite the target demographic, but still good. And Psychonauts 2 was incredible, just absolutely incredible. It was weird. It was unique. knew what it was and it had self-awareness, so a lot of the jokes that they made were just spot on. So that would be a game I would definitely recommend, especially if you're into like unique experiences as a player. That one definitely gave me what I wanted. And this was shortly after the time of a bunch of TV shows kind of disappointing us and being like, okay, well, where else can original ideas be? And the fact that Psychonauts 2 came out and I didn't even know about it was crazy because I loved the original back in the day, and the sequel did not disappoint. Okay, I think I'm going to end it here because this is pretty much done. I'll probably go in and clean up some of the edges and the value shading, but I'll post this one on Christmas. So if you want to see the finished version, I'll be posting that on Saturday. And I'm going to be posting the full version of this one tonight. So if you want to see that, you can check out my Instagram. Officially, that was the last stream of 2021. So thanks, guys, for joining me today. And I'm very excited to start doing these again in January and building up these mermaid characters based on the oceans. And hopefully we build some cool things together for the new card deck. And let me see if there's any other comments. Cricket Tome to me says, would like to teach Josh to knit. Wait a minute, I know this name. Josh is very good at crocheting. He told me there's a difference. Or at least I believe that's the one you do, right? I think that's the one you do. So yeah, I think he would be definitely down. He wants to learn how to sew as well. Jen says, Mona Lisa took 4 years in regards to pacing yourself. See? So don't feel too bummed if something taking you more than just a day to finish, because social media lies. Art doesn't always take just a couple hours to make. Thumbs up and happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everyone here and happy holidays. Yes. Oh, you guys are great. I know I've been missing you guys as well, so thank you for coming in. Oh, Daniel. Oh my God, I came in right at the end. No. Daniel's another one of those amazing artists that we've met recently. Go check out his stuff. It's Hemlock on Instagram. And we actually have a collab that still isn't finished. It's like a 2-year collab that is like so close. We're like 80-90% done. So Daniel, we got to finish that. But other than that, take care, everyone. I hope you had a great time watching the stream, and hopefully we'll see you in January. And I think that's all I got. Okay, take care. Till next time. Okay, bye, everyone. Bye.